Before the program began, we surveyed a group of non-church attending people and asked them about the questions that were raised from the book and the movie The Da Vinci Code. Let's check the responses.
First question, is Christianity a scam? The response of the polling audience was 57% of those who attended who normally don't go to church said yes. They believed that the church was suppressing documents that related to facts outside of the Bible that the church was trying to keep under wraps. The next question we asked, did Jesus and Mary Magdalene have a romantic relationship? Of those polled, 29% believed that Dan Brown was correct, that Mary Magdalene and Jesus were married and had some kind of romantic relationship. And the final question we asked them, is Jesus just a nice guy? The response was 43% said yes. They said that Jesus would prefer to be known simply as a man rather than as the Son of God. The question that comes to us is, again, that central question from the book The Da Vinci Code, which with the help of my pit crew, we're going to unveil today. The question is Christianity a scam? Dan Brown says that it is. He says that the church is suppressing documents that, if uncovered, would blow the lid on what the church has historically taught. There are 4 authorized biographies of the life of Jesus that Christians historically have accepted: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These biographies are known as the Gospels. Dan Brown suggests that there are, in addition to these 4, another 76, making a total of 80 Gospels that could reflect the life of Jesus. Well, the facts of history tell us something quite different. They tell us that there are only about 22 other Gospels. There are 18 that weren't included, 4 that were included in the Bible. And if you're a thinking person, you're going to ask, first of all, where did Dan Brown get the other 58 Gospels? We don't know. But the other question is, why were those other 18 excluded, and why were just these 4 used by the early Christians as they defined what the Bible would contain? Is there really a scam at work here? Is there information that's not being covered? Well, Dan Brown did get one thing right in his book. He was right when he put the words into one of his characters when he said to the effect that the Bible didn't fall out of heaven. The Bible didn't simply appear. It was something that happened by process. Listen to what he actually says in the book. He says, the Bible is a product of man, my dear, not of God. The Bible did not fall magically from the clouds. A man created it, and it has evolved through countless translations, additions, and revisions. The Bible, as we know it today, was collated by the pagan Roman Emperor Constantine the Great. Exactly how was the Bible put together? How was the Bible created? You guys look smart, so I'm going to put the question to you. I'd like you to turn to your neighbor in the next 10 seconds. Just turn to your neighbor and explain to them, how was the Bible written and put together? Just go ahead. Have a try. Okay, trick question. You're off the hook. It's tough, isn't it? Most people don't know how the Bible was put together. Dan Brown says that it was the Emperor Constantine who put together the books of the Bible in an attempt to hold his empire together when it was crumbling. Is he true? Is that authentic? Is that fact? Well, the facts tell us something quite different. The first stage of putting the Bible together was the stage of the story, when the story was told and retold amongst the early Christians. Let's ask a basic question. How many people in the days when Jesus lived do you think were able to read and write? Just take a stab at it. How many think maybe 50% of the population could read or write? A few, maybe 30%? A few more. How about 20%? A few more. How about 10? You're all wrong. The answer is 3%. Only 3 out of every 100 people could read and write in the days of Jesus. That's hard for us to comprehend, because in our society, most people can read and write. We're inundated with things in print, the newspaper and email and internet. And for us, writing is a way of life. But in that culture, before things were written down, they were first told and spoken, as stories were told and retold. Now, you might think to yourself, this is a bit like a game of Chinese whispers. One person is telling the other, and before long the story mutates and it begins to change. And how do we know that the stories about Jesus are really authentic and accurate? Well, don't think of it so much like a game of Chinese whispers. It's more like reading kids a bedtime story at night. You know how it is. It's 8:30 at night and the movie's coming on, and And you want to hurry up the story so the kid goes to sleep so you can go back and relax and enjoy the movie. And so you're rushing through the bedtime story and you sort of skim over some bits and hold a couple of pages together and hoping they don't notice. And whenever you skip a part of the story, what do the kids always say? You missed part of the story. Isn't this right? In the same way, these stories were accurately transmitted because a whole group of Christians heard them, people who had lived with Jesus and walked with Jesus. And if there were any sorts of inconsistencies in the stories, they would correct those and bring the stories into line with what the facts really were. The next fact are the stages where the eyewitnesses themselves, or people writing for the eyewitnesses, would write down their stories so that we can read them today. A few years ago, I had the privilege of buying my very first brand new car, straight from the car yard, and it was beautiful. It had that new car smell, and you drive down, the new car gleam, and everything was shiny and beautiful. And just as we proceeded through the intersection, a lady, blinded by the sunlight, coming the opposite way, went through the red light at high speed, hit the car next to me, which hit me. She then came around, careening on two wheels, nearly missed landing on top of us, squished next to us, and demolished our brand new 3-week-old car. Because we had eyewitnesses, I was able to get a brand new car because I had the credibility of their stories. And as a result of that, the insurance company gave me a refund on my vehicle. In the same way, with the Christian faith, we need to have credible documents that verify from eyewitnesses that they saw Jesus and that these events are true. And as a result, we can really trust what is said about who Jesus is, just in the same way that an insurance company wants valid eyewitness reports. And the 4 Gospels are written by those who were eyewitnesses, who gave credible evidence about the life of Jesus. The question is, how do these books compare with the life stories of other historic figures? With the help of my pit crew, we're going to be able to see for ourselves what exactly happens in the whole process of writing somebody's life story. I want you to imagine that over here, Josh, he symbolizes an author. And over here, this symbolizes the subject of the story. In this case, is Buddha, Buddha the prophet. And on the other side here is the author of the life of Buddha. Now, with the help of our studio audience, if every meter between them symbolizes 100 years, how far apart should these two individuals go? How many say 1 meter? How many say 2 meters? How many say 3 meters? How about 4? 5? It's actually 6. 6 meters. 600 years between the life of Buddha and when the story of Buddha was actually put onto paper. Now, let's move to another historic figure, Muhammad. Muhammad the prophet. How close do you think they should get? Do you want them closer? Tell me closer. Closer? 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 Stop. It's actually about 1 meter because there's about 100 years between the life of Muhammad and when the story of Muhammad was written. Now let's compare that to Jesus. How much distance do you think there is between the life of Jesus and when the stories of Jesus were actually put onto paper? Do you want them further apart? Closer? 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 The fact is, it's about 1 foot. 30 centimeters is the distance of about 30 years between the life of Jesus and when the totality of the Gospels are actually put onto paper. In historic terms, that's like a news flash. That means that what we have on paper was not only written by eyewitnesses, but was written while many other eyewitnesses were still alive. And if there was anything inaccurate, they would have put their hand up and said, that's got to be fixed. As a result of that, if we trust the life stories of men such as Buddha or Muhammad, why can't we trust the basic facts about the life of Jesus? That brings us to the third stage of how the Bible is put together.